What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook Monday afternoon, late in the day, about 5:30 Central Time. We witnessed the first, what McCarthy is coining his season preparation practice this morning. Much shorter practice than we've seen throughout camp. A little over, I believe, an hour and a half this morning. Traditionally, they had been going about 2.5 hours, so very truncated, very different. Hi, Duncan. Thanks for joining us. We'll go down the injury list here quick first. I know people will continually ask during the video, but Devon House was the big name added to the injury list today. Sat out with a hamstring injury. Later on in the locker room, Devon did say that it was more precautionary than anything else. They're just trying to be safe with him. He did tweak that hamstring a little bit, so we'll see. It sounds like it could be a week before he's back out on the field. What's up? Thanks for joining us. When is the beard coming back? I don't know. Probably a couple weeks, I guess. I just, somebody, like I said earlier, someone stole my razor out of my bag when I came through from New York, and I've just been too lazy to buy a razor until yesterday. Hello from New Jersey. What's going on? What receiver is standing out? Zach, I'll tell you today, it was D'Angelo Yancey. He had by far and away his most impressive practice, his most productive practice. Pause for a motorcycle. Now, it's probably no surprise that Yancey had his best day on a day when Aaron Rodgers was playing with both the scout team and the second team. Obviously, with preseason game number 1 coming up on Thursday, we saw today Brett Hundley get all of the snaps with the first string, and Rodgers was playing scout team / backup. And that meant Yancey got a lot of looks. Rodgers was not shy about throwing to the kid, and he caught pretty much everything. I counted, I think, one pass breakup, but that wasn't Yancey's fault. But for the most part, he found him deep a couple times, found him on a crossing route. Really nice catch over the middle that he had to sky to get. The safety was all over him. He fell down pretty hard on the ground, maintained control of the catch. So a good day, a real good day for the rookie, who had been very quiet up until this point. What's up, California? Thanks for joining us. Rollins doing better. Andrew, he's had a very solid camp. He got beat deep today by Yancey, which for what would have been a big gain. But for the most part, the balance of the camp, he's been very, very impressive. Early impressions of Marty Bennett are that he is a complete difference maker in this offense. And not only in the way that Jared Cook was last year, opening things up for other people, doing lots of good work over the middle, but the way he's able to block on the edge is just incredible. It's something we haven't seen in Green Bay in a very long time. And their ability to get outside and some of that zone stretch stuff is going to be greatly enhanced with Martellus Bennett on playing in line. Have you noticed any improvement with our cornerbacks compared to last year? Absolutely. With Rollins, no question. Randall has been up and down in this camp. But what's interesting about Demarius Randall, though, is that they're looking at him a lot in the slot. And that's something they had, kind of started at camp, and then Rollins had kind of taken over. And then with King's injury and now Devon's injury, they've kind of used Rollins outside instead of in the slot. So that's where they've been. That's where they've been looking at Randall a lot. And they've been using him on blitzes a lot. And his physicality, he's kind of answered the bell in that regard. So, yeah, it looks like a solid group. How's Kevin King doing? Andrew is doing well. It's interesting, though, that, he was running with the first team for a while, but today, even with Devon House's injury, he wasn't inserted in the starting lineup. It was Randall and Rollins on the outside. So it wasn't, for a little while there, it looked like they were just going to plug him in kind of as their starter. Then he kind of got taken to school, so to speak, that night in the Don Hudson Center, and he's been awfully quiet since then. Kyle Lowry is a man among men. Anyone who's watched Facebook Live with me over the summer knows I think he's a candidate to take a really big jump in year 2. He's looked excellent this camp. His tape at the end of the year last year was excellent. The arrow is definitely pointing up on Lowry. What's Rollins doing better? I would say, to me, it looks like he's done his homework as far as pattern matching, pattern reading, being able to get out of When he flips his hips and the wide receiver thinks he has him, he's being able to kind of adjust, that transition period when a receiver's trying to make his move. He doesn't get lost, so to speak, although that did happen once today on the deep ball to Yancey. But last year, a lot of times, and that may have been due to the injury, when he was, backpedaling and then flipping his hips, he was unable to recover when receivers made their move. He was always a good couple yards away from the receiver. This summer, so far, he has done a great job of not putting himself in bad positions and being able to kind of readjust and attack the football. Now, that may not always mean that he's going to be there to pick it off or even bat it away. That's Moped Dude. But, at least it's a contested catch rather than a wide open, easy pitching catch for the quarterback and wide receiver. Clay Matthews. David, it's a quiet camp for Clay, but it always is. They always kind of limit his reps. And, they want to keep him under wraps, so to speak, until the regular season. Although, he was out there today. He was doing reps. He was doing drills and things like that. But, for the most part, they limit his reps a lot just because they want to keep him healthy. Is it good or bad that the offense is lighting it up? I tell you what, it's good because this is going to be a top 5 offense in the NFL. As it's constructed right now, if everyone stays relatively healthy, it's a top 5 offense, one of the better offenses in the league. Can that moped play corner? I don't know, but the guy on it probably can't. Oh, wait, who doesn't play Thursday? Aaron Rodgers won't play. I'm guessing Jordy Nelson won't play. Devon House won't play. Past that, stay tuned. Still concerned with the process of field goals, hold, etc. Matt, that was definitely the company line today. Everyone we talked to, whether it was Mike McCarthy, Mason Crosby, Ron Zook a little while ago, they all kind of pointed to what they called what do they say? The component, or I can't remember what they kind of the operation, I think is what they said. Mike McCarthy said it wasn't any one thing. So put it on the holder, put it on the snapper, put it on the kicker. But it's something they're definitely going to have to work on. They're going to have to iron those kinks out prior to the regular season. How's the running back split looking? Bob, it was really hard to get any kind of gauge on that today. We saw a lot of, early on in practice, we saw a lot of Rodgers and the starting offensive line with just every guy who probably you would think is on, would probably never be on the 53. Or has very, very long shots to make the 53, whether it's Khalif Phillips, the new tight end they just picked up from Marshall last week was out there with the starters. So they were using all these guys that, that they're real long shots to make the squad. But on the flip side, some of them made some really nice plays. Monte Crockett had a nice catch from on a rocket ball from Rodgers. And, that might be the only chance these guys get to play with Aaron Rodgers. And, some of them definitely turned some heads. So it was really hard to kind of get a gauge of what they were doing as far as ones and twos and things like that, because they were really mixing and matching today. Which backup offensive lineman has impressed? Jeff Gray, for me. I've said it before. I'll keep saying it. He had a couple hiccups in pass protection on family night. But for the most part, I think he's been the most impressive guy that I probably didn't know much about coming into camp. He is an absolute bull in the run game, and he definitely, the game's not too big for him. He knows how to anchor, he knows how to read stunts and things like that. He's done a good job. It's a long way to go, but he is a guy who, of all the guys who, undrafted, probably don't know much about them, Jeff Gray, the guy from Canada, he's really jumped out to me. How's Kentrell Bryce looking? Brendan, he looks very, very good. He had a nice interception today. He had a great pass breakup, which was followed by a very entertaining dance. The crowd loved it. But yeah, Bryce definitely looks like a player. I don't think he's ever going to be, let's say, an all-pro or anything like that. But I do think he looks like a legit safety in the NFL, and he's a guy who's a big hitter. That's something that you noticed last year right away. It hasn't gone away. He's out there laying the wood when he's allowed to, definitely. Are standing behind the stadium. Am I standing behind this? Yeah, I'm across the field. I'm across the street from the stadium. Is the offensive line from South Florida looking... Are you trespassing again? Yes. How's Jones rotating through the safeties? Steve, he's still working primarily with the number 2s. He does a lot with the nitro package, but he's running behind Morgan Burnett there. I think they will ease him in as the year goes on, but it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And he's a big hitter. He's an explosive guy. Somebody you want out there. Devon House, for those who are asking, who just came in late, he has a hamstring injury. It's not supposed to be too serious. He mentioned in the locker room that he's probably out for a week, just to be safe. Vogel still look good? Matthew, he does. He had a couple ungreat punts today, but for the balance of the day, he looked really good. He ended, his last one was a beautiful punt. But that has been kind of the one thing you can nitpick on is, while the hang times look good, the distance has been good, he always has 1 or 2 punts, especially against the rush, that kind of leave you kind of just lacking. A 38-yarder here, or 3-something second hang time there. Anything about King that stands out? His athleticism and his length, the way he's such his long-arm guy, that's going to help him in bump coverage when he's allowed to play it. It's so early for this kid, though, and he missed pretty much all the offseason, so you can tell he's still swimming a little bit, especially with some of the checks and adjustments at the line of scrimmage. Is there a chance Matthews moves back inside? I think they'll move him around. I think that's, they'll be true to their word in that regard. But with Burnett now dropping down in there, and you got Josh Jones in there, not to mention, all the regular inside linebackers, I don't know. I mean, I think they'll mix and match a little bit, but I think, seeing those guys in that position, that inside linebacker position, they may not move Clegg inside as much. Cobb to be the #1 punt returner. John, it has gone back and forth today. Trevor Davis was first up on punts, but then they did kind of rotate between the two. I know Cobb wants the job. He's lobbied for it. Davis looked good today. He looked much better than he did last week. So that's something that's going to have to play out throughout the preseason. Right now, I call it too close to call. Any defensive vets have any gripes about the nitro package? Not that I've heard. With Peppers and Jones gone, are the Packers abandoning the elephant position? No, not really. They, that's the position that J-Rome will play, and that's the position Fackrell would play on occasion. It's not so much that they're abandoning it, but they are definitely kind of, working with the personnel they got to try and produce whatever looks and personnel packages they need. Come to my house for White Castle. Why would I do that? Montgomery getting cut? Okay, wherever you heard that, that's something you heard. Wherever you heard that, don't listen to them ever again. Secondary, it's a work in progress. That's probably about as easily as I can put it. Hi, truck. Pause for truck. But yeah, it has a work in progress. Ryan, thoughts on the young outside linebackers, Reggie Gilbert? Gilbert's been solid, but he hasn't really stood out to me in any way. Calvin, I think, had a nice family night, but then today he jumped off sides twice. That's going to kill you. I mean, you're a guy frightened to try and make the squad, and Brett Hundley got him once, and then Rodgers got him at one point, and Aaron Rodgers really got a hard count. Calvin jumps across the line of scrimmage, and literally, Rodgers takes the snap, and as he's backpedaling, he says, "I got him! I got him!" Then he just heaved one on a free play. Biegel, a couple of people have asked about Vince Biegel. Saw him today. Mike McCarthy this morning, we asked about it. He said he had no updates. He didn't practice today. And McCarthy gave no indication as to when he might be ready. So, sounds like that's still kind of in a holding pattern. Dupree looking good. Yeah, I would say Dupree's probably been the most consistent of the young wide receivers as far as, being where he needs to be and catching everything that's thrown to him and making plays when they are. He's let 1 or 2 go, but for the most part, he's been pretty consistent. He didn't stand out much today. Today was Yancey's day, no doubt about that. How has Marwan Evans looked from scrimmage? He's looked okay. That's a good question. He's kind of the forgotten man back there, because so much has been kind of talked about, written about. All the oxygen is being taken up by Josh Jones and Kentrell Bryce, but Marwan Evans shouldn't be forgotten. Now, he hasn't gotten a ton of reps, just because he's mostly running with the 3s. So those guys they only get usually like 1 or 2 reps every time they're up. So you haven't seen him out there a whole lot. But I do know he's been running on a few of the special teams, first and second team. So that bodes well for him. But, you know, they like their depth and they love Evans. They talked, you know, the coaching staff talked him up ridiculous amounts this offseason. So we'll see. I mean, I tend to think he's got a pretty good shot of making the 53, but you never know. How is Mike Daniels looking? Christopher, like a man on a mission. He's kind of in that Clay Matthews mode in that they don't give him a ton of reps. He obviously is out there. He's obviously practicing, but trying to keep him healthy. And this is a guy who played more snaps along that defensive line than anybody by a long shot last season. So, you know, it's got to be smart with him. Think Hundley will play at least a half on Thursday? Yeah, Joe, that's a good question. I would guess yes. Maybe they get Callahan in there a little bit earlier, and then let him play kind of like the end of the first half into the third quarter, and then let Hill get the fourth quarter. But I don't know. That's all it is a guess. You know, we ask McCarthy these things, and he never lets us know, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I would think a half is a good guess. Any running backs other than Williams and Ty standing out? Absolutely. Devontae Mays, to me, has probably really kind of turned my head the most. Aaron Jones has looked good, pretty inconsistent though, and he's put the ball on the ground already a couple of times. Obviously, he's not going to endear him to the coaching staff. But Devontae Mays has looked legit, no doubt about it. Is Taysom Hill giving Callahan a run for his money at all? I would say not yet, not in anything I've seen in practice. And again, it's hard because he's running with the 3s and 4s, and you know, it's a total mishmash by the time you get there, and you only get 1 or 2 reps. So it's tough. It's tough to stand out in that environment. However, I will say, I'm very interested to see those two guys in particular in Thursday night's game and all the preseason games, because we see Callahan day in and day out in practice. You guys remember last summer the big plays he made. You can't discount that. And if Hill can bring some of that to his game, maybe he's a bit of a gamer, that'll be an interesting battle. Because Hill definitely has the tools. You see the athleticism. He's got a live arm. But you just want to see what he can do in a game. So I'm very interested to see how much playing time he gets, and B, what he does with it. In layman's terms, zone blocking, running scheme, please, one cut, who blocks who. Man, that's a long conversation, who blocks who especially. But essentially, what you'll see often with the zone scheme is when the offensive linemen are asked to zone block, their initial steps are to the side rather than firing out. Now that's a gross generalization, but it's like the easiest way I can explain it. And then what the line does is, the running back is given a spot, an angle that he runs at. He's got a certain amount of steps to get to that spot. I used to talk to Ryan Grant about this all the time. You get to that spot, and then you look for the hole. Now, it can either be front side, you can keep following the blocking, or it's going to be backside. Now, one cut means you see that backside open up, and you plant your foot in the ground, and you get upfield. And a guy who's looked really good doing just that has been Jamal Williams. You saw it in his college tape, and you've seen it out here at practice every day. That is a guy who does a really good job of letting his block set, and then finding that hole, and putting his foot in the ground and getting upfield. What they don't want you to do is get there and start dancing and trying, being indecisive. The whole idea is to get there, get to your mark, find that hole, put your foot in the ground, get upfield. And that's why sometimes you'll see, I remember, before I ever talked to anybody about it, when Ryan Grant used to run to a spot and he would run into the backs of his linemen. As a fan, that probably is really frustrating. But once I talked to Ryan about it, and once I talked to James Campen about it, what's up, man? They're coached. You got to go to this spot and then make your cut. Well, if your spot is getting enveloped by offensive linemen getting pushed back or whatever, that's what's going to happen. So that's a very, 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 very simple way of explaining the zone blocking. A la Starks. Yeah, Matt, Starks was very good at it early on in his career. And then late in his career, as you guys know, he became the king of bouncing everything outside for no reason whatsoever. What Packers rookie has the best chance to win a Rookie of the Year award? Whew, that's a good question. Josh Jones, probably. Defensive Rookie of the Year, maybe? I just don't think any of the offensive rookies will get enough volume, production-wise. maybe one of the running backs, if whatever, they take off with the job and get fed the ball a lot, but I don't see that happening. Is my camera phone hanging from a tree? No, it's on a tripod. I am not the king of Packers media. I am most likely the joker of Packers media. Does Josh Jones play any corner? He hasn't in camp, not that I've seen. Is Aaron going to play at all in preseason? Well, stay tuned, Isaac. I'm sure most likely they'll follow the same script they had last year, where Rodgers played about, what was it, 2 series out there in San Francisco. And then I think we'll see the same thing maybe out in Denver. Is a Ted Thompson press conference as frustrating as it seems? It was funny you say that, because I would have answered no for most days, but because of what some of his answers last week, it can get a little frustrating. You may have heard me in that press conference when he said the only time I ever get asked about retirement is in this room. And I said to Ted, well, it's because we, the people in that room, we get asked about your retirement on a daily basis. I can't turn on Twitter without being asked about it. I can't go on Facebook Live without being asked about it. So, I'm, here for fans to let them know what's going on with the team. So if I'm getting those questions, they're going to come to you, Ted. So that can be frustrating. The fact that he's, always dances the dance. And look, I understand. I don't ever expect him to give us an answer. But we got to ask, Yeah, thanks, Danny. We keep 2 fullbacks. Ronnie is a possibility. I tell you what, when you combine Joe Carriage's play so far through camp, and he's looked very good, and then Ripkowski having that fumble on family night. Now, I don't want to make the fumble any bigger than it was, because I think that was kind of a bang-bang play. Yeah, I'm not so entirely sold that it was all Ripkowski's fault. That said, all it takes is that little bit of doubt from the coaching staff or Ted Thompson or what have you, and they think, maybe we should keep Carriage around, or maybe they just think Carriage is, one of their best 53. But I definitely think 2 fullbacks on the final 53 is a distinct possibility if Joe Carriage continues his level of play. Have I suffered an Acosta-like rebuttal in a presser? No. I did ask Ted about Josh Sitton at the Combine, and he gave me a death stare and said we don't talk about people who aren't on our team. That was fun. Last time Rip touched the ball, NFC Championship game, fumble 2. Worrisome by coach. Matt, I don't think so. Facebook Live special guest Ted Thompson. Yeah, I'll have him come on over. God, could you imagine? Do you see any surprise vet cuts? Ripkowski, it's way too early. Let's get a couple preseason games in first. I think there's some medical going on with TT. By his look and response. Joan, I know a lot of people kind of, I guess, what's the word? Posit theories about it. I've asked the Packers intermittently over the years, is he okay? Does seem kind of out of it sometimes, but then the next, tomorrow he could come out and be, fun, joking Ted Thompson and give us great answers, which has happened. So I don't know, maybe some days are better than others. I don't know, but I do know what you're talking about. When I saw him at the shareholders meeting, it looked like he'd been kind of rejuvenated. It looked like he had his energy back. I mean, I understand it's a long, the season is long and it grinds you down. So I thought, okay, he's back and here he is and he's rejuvenated and we start the new season. But then at his first press conference, yeah, you're right. He did seem out of it. So maybe that's just who he is. How's Gmo looking? Dylan, he's had a quiet camp. I got to admit, Rodgers tried to go deep to him today and should have got picked off, but Whitehead couldn't hang on to it. He's solid. He's the guy you saw last year. You can depend on him. He's going to be in the right spot. He's going to break open in the scramble drill. He hasn't made a ton of big plays. I think the biggest one he had was a nice post route he ran down the seam, and Hundley hit him for a big gain a couple days ago. For the most part, just solid. Concerned about the pass rush. Ward, I do think it's going to be interesting after, a week or two to assess how they're asking Dom Capers to get to the quarterback, because if Clay Matthews and Nick Perry aren't able to do it, he's going to have to manufacture a pass rush. Now, some of that may be Josh Jones, someone maybe Demarius Randall off the slot, and manufacturing that pressure. That may be something he has to get to earlier than they expect. But I tell you what, after Perry and Matthews, I don't see a whole lot on the edge. Now, again, we got to see some game tape. We got to see some preseason games here. But just initial kind of looks, it looks pretty bare after those two guys. Reverse your camera, Bonnie. I can't. Like, I know it's supposed to, like, the thing with the backward text there. That's what it does when you do this facing camera. But if I flip the camera, then I can't see the questions. You'd have a beautiful shot of me with right lettering, but then I wouldn't be able to see your lovely questions. Demario, I think that's the perfect way to end it. Demario says I really want a brat and fried cheese curds, and you know what? So do I. So I think I'm going to go get some. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question, but please make sure you're checking out all our stuff at PackersNews.com. Yeah, dog. I'll be back tomorrow, so if I didn't answer your question today, try again tomorrow. Practice is early in the morning, I think 10:15. And then Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy are going to talk, and then I'll come and talk to you fine folks. So thanks a lot. Make sure you check out PackersNews.com for all the latest from Lambeau Field, from Packers training camp. Talk to you soon.